ended up in jail, by happenstance. I was outside smoking a joint, and cop rolls around, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, and he saw me, so I wasn't gonna lie. I'm like, I'm smoking. And he was like, "It's not a cigarette." And I was like, "Nope." And then he was like, "All right, well, I'm gonna make the rounds if you're still out here. When I get back around, it's gonna be something." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." So he left. I put the joint out, but I didn't go back, inside. I was just sitting out there. And he pulls back around. He's like, "This is what I told you." And so then, they
I don't know why they get off on that. I've been in that same situation in terms of a cop saying, all right, I saw you. I'm going to go drive around the block. If you're here when I get back, blah, 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 blah. And I've experienced that myself and heard about that other times. And I don't know what the angle is on that. I don't know why they.
yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a power trip, but a power trip would just be locking you up right there. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you could, a power trip is why these guys wear these uniforms in the first place. So like, I don't get the
It's
monotony of like doing. But that's a thing that
yeah,
I've seen over and over. Being a graffiti kid, like I've experienced that, and going into different neighborhoods with different friends where myself as a white person is an unusual thing to see in that neighborhood. The cops come on you right away. And I've experienced that with cops where they're like, you got to get out of here because you don't belong here.
it's
And I'm just like, I'm here
right.
because I know these
It's
people. Like, but then they'd come back and they'd re-question me and shit. And so it's a very similar thing to what you're saying. I don't understand where that comes from or why that tedium of that procedure is so universal across
it's
cities in
ridiculous
America,
process, man. That's what it is. They just
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
put my
true.
shit on the
Yeah.
table. You're gonna put your shit on the table, and we're gonna see who wins. And ultimately, they're they know they're gonna win most of the time because of that
Right.
uniform.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. So
Hmm.
so he winds up arresting me, and then they lock me up, and then they're, oh, we're gonna hit you with the intent to distribute charge. And I'm like, what? It's a fucking joint. Like, I'm not, like, even if I did
Oh
even if
wow,
I
that's
did
crazy.
sell it, I'm getting, like, at the time,
Right,
20 bucks for it at most. So it's not like I'm like,
right,
sitting there with
right.
like pounds of weed outside getting ready to fucking go make 20 grand or some shit. So and then they, when you get in there, they they start fucking with you because they know,
Mm.
you're fresh, because I had never been to gym.
You mean the other people that are
No, well,
incarcerated at the
not
time,
only them,
or
but also
and
the
also,
guards and
yeah.
officers in the jail. They know, because I'd never been to jail
Hmm.
at that time. I'd never been arrested, at that time.
Hmm.
So they just, their they make it their thing to just fuck with you. And then on top of it, at the time, I had a visible gang tattoo on my right arm that's now covered. And
Hmm.
so they're like, oh, because they know, so they're like,
Yeah.
oh, oh, you're one of them, huh? So they put me in a cell with you know, quote unquote rivals, because they thought those guys would fuck with me, and some of them did. And
Oh
most of them
wow.
was like,
Wow.
we're here for the same shit you're here for. There's no I was fortunate because in some places it's not like that.
Mm.
Some places, the
Right.
lines are legitimately drawn, and
Mhm.
gangbanging is like still very much a thing in jail.
Do you think if you were a little bit older at the time that it might have been
Maybe,
different?
but I also,
With the rivals, maybe the rivals were like, "Fuck, I'm in jail. I'm not gonna
yeah,
fuck with this kid right now."
maybe,
But
but
you know,
but I also, the way that I came up, I was never a guy that was like, that had to prove himself. So that was not like, I never had that air to,
hmm
like, where I'm, I walk in a room and I gotta
right.
prove I'm hard or I'm this. Because even when I was like, quote unquote gang banging, I wasn't really gang banging. Like, I wasn't
Right.
like, yeah, I got into fights, and I carried a gun, and did things that gangbangers do, but for me, it was always about just the, the safety element, um, and then also just having the opportunity. For me, it was always money. For some
Yeah.
guys, they, again, it was
They're trying to get their
yeah.
psychiatry out
So
of the
they,
shit,
whether they were going through things at home, I don't know, but they get out in that street and it's
Right.
just like it's showing proof time, for better for worse,
Hmm.
so I think it was just a combination of just being knowing, to keep my mouth shut, not ruffle any feathers, and just having that overall general presence of just not being that guy that's gonna want to test people. Plus, the reason I wrote the song the way that I did, because the first verse is,
Yeah.
kind of like a stereotypical rap, hardcore, I'm in jail verse. And then I turned the concept on its head,
Hmm.
and then the second verse is like, oh, fuck, I'm in here. Fuck this place. I'm never coming back. I'm not built for
Right.
this shit.
Yeah. That's what I was getting. Yeah, that's what I was getting to is like, the song itself, for those that haven't heard it, that might be finding this interview without hearing the song or without hearing the whole album. It's the reason I'm asking these questions and the reason that Fuze is, in my opinion, is talking about these things on these records is not to glorify this or try to show some kind of cred or bona fide because frankly, like if that's what it was about, Fuse could have been rapping about much different shit for a much longer time. To me, I interpret it as like, this is a cautionary tale, for lack of a better term. This is my experience and how this woke me up, and that ties into a lot of the other themes of the record. So if you want to speak on that a bit in terms of the concept and how the
Yeah,
second
I mean,
verse ends and all that.
comfort food was about, you know, me being in the street doing street shit and being around street dudes. Um,
Hmm.
and then comfort food was about me suffering the consequences of being in that environment. And then realizing like, oh shit, I'm really not, because I have friends that went to jail like religiously, and I have friends that
Hmm.
legitimately liked going to jail. I don't know why. Maybe it's just maybe they just got caught up in the system at some
Yeah.
point, and that's just what they knew, and they didn't know anything else, and they
Yeah,
didn't
I
feel
think that's
comfortable being on the
yeah.
outside anymore, which is really sad when you think about it.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
but for me, it was just like, man, I don't ever want to come back to a place like this, because you got people in there, telling you when to eat, telling you when to shower, watching you shave, watching you shower, and then telling you when you can sleep, um, and when you can go do certain activities, and that's not for me. And
Right.
shit, I remember being the first night I was in there, there was a guy, because the thing, you the people that have been in there for a while, or they're getting ready to be transferred somewhere else because they're higher degrees of crime, so they're serving longer sentences, so they got to be moved. Because I was in county jail, so these guys, there's guys in there that are waiting to be moved to penitentiaries for longer sentences. Um, so they'll ask you, "What are you in there for?" And this one guy was like, "I'm in here for parking tickets," and they just, I mean, it was like as soon as he said parking tickets, there was like 10 dudes on this guy just beating the shit out of him. I was
Really?
like,
Why would you even say that though, man? Like, I mean, I'm not trying to knock the guy who probably had a tough life to begin with, but if I'm in jail, I'm just gonna lie and say some other shit. I don't know, assault or something, at least to like maybe, like parking
that
tickets
just
is
that
that's a rough one. I was jaywalking. It's like almost sitcom
but
esque. You know what I mean?
that just
Like,
like again, it just spotlights, you know, I don't know, how many parking tickets that guy had. Maybe he had, hundreds or thousands of dollars of
right?
parking tickets. Who knows? But does a situation like that warrant, hardcore jail time.
No, of
You
course
know, is
not.
me having a
Yeah,
joint and being in possession of a joint warrant, you know,
right.
being in jail for almost a month? No, hell no. Um,
Wow.
you know, but then that leads to the next thing.
That's crazy. That's crazy that you're in there for that long for just what is a juvenile kind of, no matter what your age was, like an inconsequential, I guess is the better word. I mean, but also we're seeing it through, 2022 eyes, where like in most major cities, like, weed has been decriminalized, if not legalized. Um, so I'm not saying it was ever good to put people in jail for smoking a joint. I'm just saying cops
Oh
saw
yeah,
it a
for
lot
sure.
differently then. Like they equated fucking smoking a joint with fucking smoking a pipe, and there's uh, not that either should be harshly criminalized and jailed, but obviously there's a difference
Oh,
between different
100%.
drugs.
But you know,
So,
that leads me to the next thing, like, uh, you know, when I was in there, you know, you know, when you're growing up in that kind of environment, you know, your boys are always like, yeah, man, if you ever get locked up, I got you, and you know, this, and this, you know,
hmm,
and sure enough, you know, I get locked up, I don't hear from anybody, you know, and in grand scheme of things, it was
yeah,
only 3 weeks, it was less than a month, but 3 weeks is,
there's enough
yeah,
time for somebody to get in touch with you though if they were
man, in
really
that
connected
in
like
that
that.
type of environment, that's a long fucking time, man. Um,
Absolutely. That's that. They ain't no weekends. That's 7 days. That's 7 days of a
so it
week.
was enough
You
time for me to know, man, I don't ever want to come back to a place like this. But then, you know, it really kind of showed me who my friends were because, you know, when I got released,
know.
because I was living on my own, I had a couple roommates at the time. I go back to the house and people are partying at the house. And I was like,
Mm,
what the fuck? Like, why didn't anybody reach out? Why didn't anybody, you know, try and bail me out? But you guys are out here partying in my house? Like, what the fuck
right.
is this? So that kind of showed me like who my well, my
Jeez.
true friends were. So I wound up cutting off a lot of people. And you know, at that
Yeah.
time, like I had met Augury, who was in Wastelands with me, and like I was kind of exposing him to shit that I didn't really want to expose him to because he was good, you know, he's always been a good dude, you know, good head on his shoulders,
Right.
stand-up guy. So I was like, man, you know, me and him were like trying to do this rap thing. So I was like, I can't do both. And you know, I went to the
Right.
OGs and I
Right.
was like, you know, this is what I want to do, and they're like, yeah, you know, you can't do both.
Hmm.
So you know
Wow.
you if that's what you want to do, you can go and you know just make sure you
Hmm.
put your all into it, and you know we got you if you need something. And a lot of people don't know this, but that street money was the reason why I was able to put the first Wastelands record out. So because you know they understood, so I can appreciate that because a lot of people don't get out
Yeah.
smooth like I got out. So,
Right.
um,
Right.
so I'm thankful for that too.
Consequences came through learning how the jail system played you, enslaved you. 3 weeks on the bench in an overcrowded gym, covered in the stench. Newcomers catching rack, violence and respect. Folks are people, the golden image. You ain't a killer. Limits to the business. Watching cats catching beatdowns for parking tickets.